What does a long distance relationship do to your bond spiritually? So, my partner and I have had long distance now for about, I believe, 1, 2 months. And I have previously also been in a partnership where I actually had a long distance relationship for 2.5 years, meeting my ex partner then about 4 times during that previous relationship. So I do have some experience with long distance relationships romantically, right? And I wanted to share with you, or I felt called to share with you now, what I've come to realize and what I've come to learn from that. Because a lot of the times I feel like a lot of people look at it as a disadvantage, or like it's something that is not desired or something that one should avoid and should be together in the physical at all times. However, I actually see a lot of benefits come from it. So, firstly, I would say that it removes the focus from the physical intimacy and it grows spiritual intimacy. So, obviously, when you're apart, geographically speaking, for whatever reason, it might be that one of you have work in a someplace, or that you have to attend to something in some place, or maybe one of you desire for some travel and the other one does not. There can be so many different reasons. Maybe you need to visit family or whatever that allows you to, or that leads you into this long distance thing. So I would say that firstly, again, it removes the focus from this physical intimacy, the intimacy of being in close proximity, to growing in spiritual intimacy, because each of you have a soul, you have a spirit. And the way that I can most rationally describe that is that you have an essence to you. So when you enter a room, when you have a conversation with someone, each and every single conversation is going to be unique. And every relationship is going to be unique because you bring your spiritual essence to that relationship. So when you no longer have that physical intimacy, it goes over more so to growing in spiritual intimacy, because now you depend on other things than the physical touch and the physical intimacy that you might have if you live together. And it allows you to grow in faith together, to grow in spiritual intimacy with yourself and with God, and also actually inadvertently with the other person, even though that they're further away. It's as if you have to feel them at a different level to what you would if you were in the same place. Also, it reveals where the relationship is at to oneself and to the partner. So, whenever you're apart physically, obviously that will reveal where it is you're at, like in how close you actually are to each other, how deep the relationship is. It reveals what have not been attended to and what have been attended to. And you will probably begin missing a little bit the things that you have attended to, and see the value of the things that you attended to when you were in close proximity. And it also allows you to some space to reflect on what kinds of needs that were not attended to, that you can then maybe reflect on and begin communicating the needs of to your partner whenever you reunite again, and begin to see if you can already begin to nurture that when you're apart. And then next, I would say that it reveals where the relationship is at, not only with yourself, not only with a partner, but with God. Because when you're apart from each other, you obviously have an opportunity for more space, maybe more quiet. Maybe you don't have the same urgency maybe to attend to your partner, obviously, because you're apart physically. So now you have more opportunity to build and strengthen the relationship with God, even though that absolutely ought to be a relationship you also want to nourish when you're in close proximity with each other. So now you have an opportunity then to like actually deepen that relationship through prayer, through reading scriptures, to maybe and embarking on a endeavor, on a new project, or maybe you get some new ideas coming in, and maybe you get to attend to that in a different way when you're in a long distance relationship than versus when you are immersed in the world of another person. And also, I would say that it also reveals the degree of trust that is established. Okay. So when you're apart physically or geographically speaking, then it reveals how much you actually trust your partner. Because only when there is established a sense of trust can you probably begin to surrender into the distance physically that is there, so that you surrender into trust. You don't surrender into fear or worry or something like that. But if you do, then that is a great sign actually to attend to. Because if you, when you're apart from your partner, if that, what immediately happens is that you go into fear, into paranoia, into thinking about what the other person is doing all the time, needing to check on them all the time, or they are doing the same with you, then that reveals that there is a lack of trust with the other. And also, it reveals that there might be a lack of trust with yourself and with God. And if there's worry, if there's paranoia or fear or whatever, and if you start to blame or shame or go into these coping mechanisms, now that is a direct reflection of the relationship that you actually might have with yourself. This is typically not the other person, it's typically rooted in past trauma that we then project onto our current partner or current relationship. And so it is an opportunity to then go into shadow work, and go into connection with God, and to pray for trust to be restored. Pray for trust to be re-enlightened within you and within the relationship. And for you to have, I would say, vulnerable conversations, vulnerable intimacy with each other, where you reveal the triggers that might be there, reveal the behaviors that you might go into when you feel the way you do, etc., etc. So it's just an opportunity, really. Also, this kind of long distance relationship, it reveals what foundation the relationship is built on. So when you're apart, geographically speaking, and long distance, now you get to see what the relationship was built on when you were together in physical proximity. So when you're then apart, then you get to reflect on, or you see the harvest more so of what actually worked, what actually sort of was the seeds that you sow that were coming to fruition. You get to have a little bit of distance when there's a sense of distance, and it's actually healthy to have that whether you're in close proximity or not. When you're in that long distance relationship, you will see the foundation that that relationship is built on. Is it built on greed? Is it built on selfishness and selfish desires, and for one's own needs to be met all the time? Was it built more so on a sense of fantasy? Was it built on other things that reveals itself once you're apart? Or can you see that once you're apart, the foundation that the relationship is built on was one of trust, one of vulnerability, one of intimacy, one of strength and like connection, deep connection. You begin to see things differently when you get a little bit of perspective and when there's a little bit of distance there in the physical sense. So that's a great thing that comes from long distance, I would say. Also, this is an opportunity to then grow in the skill of communication and conflict resolution. Because when you're apart, obviously, what are you going to depend on? The relationship is going to depend on whether you're able to communicate what it is that is going on in your world, what's going on in their world, and what it is that you are feeling, what your needs are. And there probably are going to be a little bit more distance in the physical. So there has to be a sense of, I don't know, I think it's more necessary to have vulnerable conversations then, even more than before, and to really double down on communication, because that's really what you got. That and the sense of spiritual bond that you have with one another. And that's so crucial, that you end up not just talking about the things that you did maybe when you lived together, which was maybe more of like a catch up here and there of like what was going on in each other's world, but that it goes beyond the surface level topics, and that you go more beyond the normal daily day-to-day life, and that you move more into conversations about sort of the deeper things in life: meaning, contribution. How can I support you right now? In which way can I support you other than in the being there physically right now? And then having those discussions, having those talks, and really digging deep into self and in relationship to God. Especially when you're apart, this is so important to nourish. And it truly is a skill to grow in that communication. And if there's one thing that I learned from my long distance relationships, it's probably communication. I'm so happy and so grateful for that skill that I now have, that obviously I can use in close proximity as well. So being apart is actually something that also not only grows your communication skill, but it also grows your sense of ability to prioritize maybe novelty and adventuring, or being adventurous, and prioritizing those things, I think, is important, because actually that is what kills most relationships. It's a lack of novelty or perceived novelty. And what happens when there's sort of a little bit of distance there, perceived distance or actual physical distance, is that the novelty goes up, because now the person that you're with is psychologically a little bit mysterious. Now you don't just have this person next to you and you can see what's happening with that person constantly. Now it's a mystery, and that is actually really, really important to implement and to consciously be aware of, and maybe even encourage from time to time in relationships. So I would say that it's healthy, and it's you can become a little bit complacent if you're together with each other all of the time. I think. Furthermore, one other thing that I would say that I've learned from long distance relationships is that it allows for individual development and growth. Now, that's obvious, right? Because when you're together, the focus is very much on not just me, you, and us, and this entity that we are growing and building together. Hopefully that is there. But it's more so now on you, on your individual development, on your individual growth, on your individual relationship with God. And you still have that ongoing conversation and that ongoing relationship with that other person, even though that's physically apart. But it allows you an opportunity. It gives you an opportunity to refocus onto self, onto your individual path that is necessary for you to also grow stronger together with this other person. So those are the sort of takeaways that I'd say that I've received from long distance. And I will see my partner tomorrow. We've now been apart for a little while because I have weddings. I'm a wedding photographer and creative here in Norway, where I'm from. And I also came over here to explore Copenhagen and potentially moving there. So that's why I came over this time. And my partner then stayed in Mexico and waited for our puppy to be delivered there. And now he's going to come over to Norway with a puppy. So I'll get to see the puppy. Her name is Grace for the first time. And we're going to travel a little bit together here and then probably go back to Mexico the end of August. And what I think was just so beautiful is how we were able to kind of just smoothly just transition from being together sort of physically to like me being here and him being there and still being in contact with each other. Oh, another takeaway I actually want to share with you is kind of like a little bonus is make sure to stay in contact with each other, but not too much, not all of the time. Do not text all the time. Do not call all the time. Do not call out of nowhere. Have a set time, approximately the best sweet spot to not get tired and overwhelmed of all of these calls all the time because it can become a little bit, you can become depleted and you actually lose out on the benefits of the long distance that I've talked about. So approximately the best thing that I have come to discover is a call every second or third day instead of every single day. That allows for that space for you to really be able to receive the benefits that I've talked about in this little live stream right here. So that's it for now. I hope that was something that you got something out of wherever you're at in your relationship journey. I think that it is inevitable that during our relationships, we will have times apart, and whether it's romantic or platonic, there is going to be distance. So it's necessary to take care of ourselves psychologically, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually when we're apart, and to know that it's actually growing you, spiritually speaking. It's growing you. It can actually be an opportunity to grow in every kind of way. It's just about the viewpoint and the perspective you have on it. Truly, that's all that it is. I saw a movie yesterday and they said that there's no such thing as reality, only a viewpoint. And it was about a photographer actually during World War II. And I thought, that's actually pretty true. There's no such thing as reality, it's only the viewpoint. And I think the same thing applies to long distance relationships. And I'm here for you to help you grow in your faith, because faith is so necessary to be able to sustain yourself in relationships, also long distance. So you can join the Garden, which is the community that I have for those who would like to grow in faith, courage, and applying that to your life. It's a character development, which is something that we ought to invest in because it is truly what everything else flows from, our character and our heart posture. So you can go to bloomdown.com/waitlist to come on to that little community right there where we have gatherings and whatnot. I am sending you so much love, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.